I'm sure he might have got him a year or two after that. But Gasquet burst onto the scene as a teenager. He was the youngest player on tour to ever win a match in Monte Carlo. As I think he was 15, nearly 16 at that time. And then, of course, Rafa goes on and wins the French a couple of years later as a teenager.
Great thrill for the crowd here at the Kooyong Classic. This is a men's match. #1 player in the world, the icon that is Rafa Nadal, playing Richard Gasquet from France, and Nadal will be serving. Our first look at him for 2018.
First set, Rafael Nadal to serve. Ready, play.
Well, ball striking, as we spoke about in the first match here at Kooyong, difficult today. There's a very heavy breeze coming across the court.
15 love.
We will see a few miss hits, particularly from these two, because they've got big, long swings, free swinging players, the both of them.
Love.
I didn't quite finish what I was saying about Gasquet there. You know, he's been in semis of slams, but he's just been in an era that was almost impenetrable to win a slam when we talk about Roger, Rafa, Novak, Andy. But he's one of the ones that sits just behind that. Of course, you throw in Stan there as well, but just not quite a big enough game to be able to knock those 5 out back to back.
Gasquet has earned a very a wonderful living, and has got a career that he should be so proud of. 14 singles titles, a highest ranking of 7, and $15.8 million in earnings. It's an extraordinary career, but your point's so valid. He's been behind 2 of the absolute all-time greats, and well, 3 of the absolute all-time greats, and another great.
Game.
And
Nadal.
Rafa holds. Nadal, 1-love, first set.
First game.
Courtesy of industry super funds. Todd, let's compare the pair. And it's a comparison that's been happening a lot in their lives.
Yes, well, you just spoke about how good the right column was for Gasquet, but look at that on the other side. 75 career titles, $94 million in prize money, and you can probably quadruple that with what he's earned off court as well. So on his way to being a sporting billionaire is Rafa. That'd be nice to put in your fund, wouldn't it? You could, with all the choices that you get in your super funds.
For the industry super funds, it'd be a good call to make, wouldn't it?
You and I could live off a little bit of that interest.
I've just got the 94. Can you just invest it appropriately?
Well, from what I've seen in these opening half a dozen points,
Love 15.
Rafa is finding the middle of the racket beautifully.
And if you're wondering what's that in the background, I think that's the 116. That's the 116 stopping all stations to Glen Waverley in the background there, going through Kooyong train station. Great thrill for the crowd, and haven't they come in with this opportunity to see Nadal v Gasquet in the Kooyong Classic.
Oh. 15-30. 30 all.
Nadal's going to have an early look here at a break.
30-40.
Well, he's so frustrating to play against, and we talked about how difficult the conditions might be. Doesn't look like there's a breeze at all for Rafa. Ooh. No Hawkeye here, so no ability to challenge a tight line call. Oh, there he goes. Commentator's curse right onto Rafa.
Deuce.
He is human after all. He's been Todd. Blustery conditions here at Kooyong, early 20s temperature.
Advantage, Gasquet.
Need to talk about maybe in the next game, Todd, talk about how the players handle these windy conditions, how they change the way they play. Huge angle there from Nadal.
Well, when I watch Nadal play,
Deuce.
one of the things I look for early to test what type of form he's in is where the forehand is going and the depth that he's got on it. And so far in these couple of games, he's controlling his depth beautifully. If he's a little unsure of his form, he doesn't necessarily miss, but he drops it a bit short. It's a little bit spinny. He gets a little bit steery on the ball, but that doesn't look like the case at all. He's come here full of confidence.
Game, Gasquet.
It was a struggle, but Gasquet holds 1-all first set.
So on later, and in the men's, Alex Demonor. There's a lot going on over there.
Let's talk about the win, Todd. What do you, as a player, maybe as a mere mortal as opposed to Rafa, what do you do differently in these sorts of conditions?
Well, you use the wind to your advantage to start with, because you can ride the ball through different parts of the court. You can slide your serve and help your serve. Oh, see that shot there, the wind's coming from right of screen to left, and so he's just used the breeze to create more angle on that backhand there. That's perfect. He's serving from the more difficult end for him because he's the lefty. His sliding serve will hold up against that breeze, so he'll probably try to shape the ball a little bit more to give more kick from this end. There we go. See the shape of that one. If he goes wide with it, Gasquet gets a better hit on the return from that end of the court. The harder part's really to get the toss in the right place when it's this breezy. You can see there, because of the angle that Rafa's having to serve with the wind coming, because it feels uncomfortable. He'll feel far more comfortable up the southern end. He's serving from the northern end.
Second serve.
Talking about doubles combos of left-righty, perfect to have that left-right combination when you've got a windy day like this. And he finally gives us the double. Mark Woodford and I,
30-15.
obviously left-right combo, so we both had sliding serves. We didn't have a lot of kick and shape, so it was perfect for us. If we were playing here today, I'd be serving at this end where Rafa would serve, because I can slide my ball into the opponent and away from them, and then Mark would have served the other end. Would actually hurt us a lot if we didn't choose the right ends, because our serves would be vulnerable.
(40-15).
Rafa's did appear vulnerable in the previous, but 40-15 now. Big crowd filling up at Kooyong, and a wonderful bonus for tennis fans around Melbourne to get early in preparation for the Australian Open and get really up close and personal. That's the beauty of Kooyong, how close you can be to the action. Don't see that every day.
No, unusual shot selection.
40-30.
What about Rafa playing this tournament? Last year we saw him in Brisbane and then had that week gap between tournaments before the Australian Open. Was the preparation he went for. He's changed it up in 2018.
Well, it wasn't the plan, though. The plan was to play a couple of tour events, but because he had to pull out, because he wanted extra time just to recover, this has ended up being perfect for him.
Our first look at the summer of 7 tennis at the #1 player in the world in the men's game, Rafael Nadal, Kooyong Classic. Playing Richard Gasquet.
Well, no issue with the movement here, was there, of Nadal? Clever little chip there, just puts it down the line and got room to cover.
Of all the weapons, what's his biggest?
I think it's his mental fortitude. The physicality that he brings with his mental game. Good shot. Oh, here's a good shot maker, Gasquet.
30-15.
Watch Gasquet as he moves throughout this match and where he positions himself in the court. Very good at giving himself room. He moves back a lot, but when the ball's short, he's up onto it quickly. You see there, he'd be in and out of the baseline all the time. Now, you watch a lot of players and they'll stay at 1 level. They'll just move laterally across. But his awareness, because of the way he's been brought up on clay courts, is that it's time to attack and it's time to defend. And he has two very distinct abilities to work those both into a rally. I mean, Rafa, similar.
Game.
Struggling
Gasquet.
to find his range on that forehand, so Gasquet holds 2-all in the first set.
2 games.
And we saw some wonderful scenes. Have a look at the big Kooyong crowd. Gasquet and Nadal, and social media, iPhones are all out filming the arrival of Rafael Nadal.
It's just incredible drawing power that this man has, Roger Federer has. It's just extraordinary.
It was nothing compared to the crowd when you made your way to the commentary box, Todd.
I got there earlier. They didn't know what time I was arriving.
Nadal to serve.
Love 15.
I'll take a shot of that orange watch that Rafa wears there. That's a Richard Mille. Now, I know you want one of those in your drawer, Richo.
Yeah, talk to me.
But you're going to need, look, somewhere in the vicinity of around about $750,000. That's right, you heard me correctly. $750,000. 750,000.
He's playing in a watch worth 750, so that's not his dress watch.
Well, it's a good point.
Let's first serve.
The model that he wore previously to this one, it was on the market just for $690,000 US, and they only made 50 of them. They sold out.
That is different level, isn't it?
Let's first
So if
serve.
anyone at home's interested, Richard Millet is the name.
750,000. Does it tell the time?
And many other things, one hopes. You can't even drive it. So having a little trouble with the serve.
15-30.
It's 3 doubles. The ball toss just a little low, but I mentioned that conditions are going to make serving difficult.
And playing at the old lady at Kooyong, this is a very different arena compared to what he'll compete in when he's playing at the Australian Open in regards to how much effect the wind will have.
Absolutely.
All.
On days like today, you want to try to hit a little more spin, a little more shape with your serve. Big flat serving, percentage-wise, you'll be down. So you have to take a bit of speed off it and use that shape.
And the heavy spin, it just catches up with you,
40-30.
the opposition. The work that Nadal puts on the ball.
Let's have a look at that. You might have got a view there of the Gasquet racket. He only puts about 3 or 4 inches of tourna grip tape. Then he has leather at the end, but then he builds the butt of the racket up enormously with tape. It's a game.
It was a struggle, but Rafa holds. He leads 3-2 first set.
Nadal leads 3-2.
Thanks for your company, Kooyong Classic. Richard Gasquet from France, serving first set.
Love 15.
So as we went to break there, I was talking about the racket handle of Gasquet. So he builds up the back of the butt of his racket like you would holding a baseball bat, so that if you were batting with a bat, you don't lose the racket, you don't throw it. It's a completely individual thing to do. One of the very few players that does it.
Love 30.
We take a look at it here. You can see how built up it is there on the base of the butt of the racket. And he does that because he has very extreme grip changes between the forehand and the single-handed backhand. And that way he can feel where his grip is much easier. Only other player I know of to do something similar to that was Yevgeny Kafelnikov. By contrast, right, Rafa just has the regulation racket, but
Rip it and rip it.
Yep. And as we said, he's got a little bit of tourna grip right where his hand is, and the top half is the old-fashioned leather. They got rid of leather a while ago because it was useless.
Don't tell Richard that.
Lovely bit of touch there. He's got power and feel, Gasquet. You know that, Richard, the grips came about because originally in the old days when you had the wooden rackets, there was just a wooden handle and they chipped in grooves to be able to hold on, and then leather came about as the next best option. That came about in the late 20s, 30s, and then when we got to the 70s, Vitas Gerulaitis brought out the hospital gauze, and he used to put gauze tape on his for every change of ends. He'd put a new bit of gauze tape on, and then eventually we got the modern Torna grip, and there's variations of that since in the early 80s.
Gasquet holds. We're level in the first set, 3-all.
An update on what's going on at the Sydney International. Sam Stosur, she lost the first set 6-4 against German Karina Vitoff, but she's in a battle. It's 5-all in the second set, and she's on serve. So make sure you download that, of course. We've been telling you because that'll take you all the way through the summer of 7 tennis. It's brilliant.
Certainly is, Mel. I downloaded my 7 Tennis app at the start of the summer of 7 Tennis, and opportunity to see all the courts. Push premium for so many other features as well. Nadal to serve.
Got a good shot there. Fabrice Santoro, who's working this year with Richard Gasquet. Fabrice, of course, a craftsman of the double-hander off both sides, and if you enjoyed watching him play through his career, you'll be able to watch him at the Legends at the Australian Open. He's in the field.
Which is the perfect segue. Overcooks the forehand there. I know that no doubt there's a press conference planned, and there's a lot of the world media want to know, Todd, in regards to whether you'll be playing in the Legends and Stubbsy. Can you give us an insight here onto 7 Tennis?
Yes, I will be, and there's another good field, including John McEnroe and Patrick McEnroe teaming up together. Tina Navratilova, Lindsay Davenport, Stubbsy, she'll be there.
Always a great highlight of the AO. We all love watching. We're all green with envy. Wish we were out there.
A lot of people look forward to watching Henri, and he'll be back as well. That's Henri Leconte, Mansour Barami, one of the great showmen of our sport.
Rafa starting to find his range. Just reflecting on your previous comments in regards to the rackets. For our Victorian audience, if you have an opportunity to get along to the Kooyong Classic, get there a little early and get into the clubhouse at Kooyong. They've got a great display of all the old rackets, and see the evolution of the equipment of the players.
40-15.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to watch Rafa play Roger with Rod Laver's racket, wouldn't it? Be very different.
Game. Nadal. Ball change,
Nadal
please.
holds 4-3 first set.
Nadal lead.
Kooyong Classic, Rafael
Time.
Nadal. Nice crowd starting to fill up here. A real bonus for Victorian tennis fans that they've been able to get a glimpse at the #1 player in the world. Is he, pardon my ignorance, has he played the Kooyong Classic before?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure of that, whether he might have played in his very early days of coming down to Melbourne. I feel like he has, but it's been a long time since he's been there. It was a good shot there as we came back from break of the flags up above the stadium, and how stiff they were with the breeze.
Love 15.
So what's the ideal preparation for Nadal and for Gasquet going into the Aussie Open?
Well, you know, winning's important here, but not as much as not as much as it would have been if he's in Brisbane or a full-on ATP Tour event.
Playing for points.
But you know what Rafa wants here? He wants a really competitive match to test every part of his game. And he'll get that from Gasquet. You know, heavy ball, good power from Gasquet. So he test his movement, test his ball striking. Yeah, practice is
30-15.
It just doesn't have that ability to replicate the pressure moments that will come today on break points. You know, hit a second serve at 30 all those pressure bits that build up when you're actually within a match. It's just completely different. So it's just what he needs, Rafa. And let's not forget, like, he's not short of match play. He played an enormous amount of matches last season. It's just the break. It's a slightly different scenario, but if we remember back to 2017, the beginning,
30 all.
Federer went to Hopman Cup. He played the 3 matches of the round robin there. Again, no points in the Hopman Cup, so he knew he was going to get those 3. That was his preparation into the Australian Open. If Rafa plays this, and I'm not sure if he's going to have another one, we hope so here, he's doing what Roger did almost. Oh.
40-30.
Early 20s today, temperature-wise. Later on in the week, it will warm up, which he may be keen to have a match and a nice warm day to get used to what is always a really warm Grand Slam, the Australian Open, and some of those scorching days. Gasquet holds. 4-all first set.
Checking in at Melbourne Park, and of course none other than Stan Wawrinka here having a hit out. He spent much of last year sidelined with injury. He had surgery after Wimbledon. He's number 9 at the moment. He of course won the Australian Open in 2014. What can he produce? Hopefully we'll see him in action next week.
Just the top right hand corner of your screen there, in the middle of those 3 gentlemen with the navy blue shirt on, that's Carlos Moya, who is the full-time coach now of Rafa this year, now that Uncle Tony's not going to be travelling. And of course, Australian Open finalist and former world number 1 himself, French Open champion.
And is that a good change for Rafa?
Well, he's been with him for a year. He's been on and off, but now he's the boss. He's taken the full reins from Tony. And okay, so here's a big opportunity. Little unforced error.
Love 30.
Look, Rafa wouldn't let him into the team if it wasn't right. There he is, top right, middle there of the 2 navy blue shirts. Fell on the left is Carlos Costa, former Spanish player who's the manager of Rafa. Played quite a lot against Carlos myself. Or one of the management team, put it that way. He's not comfortable at all.
Hasn't heard so many trains in his life.
So this is what we're talking about, putting yourself in these moments under pressure. And this has been a rather loose game. And you could tell there, that second serve, he was struggling to get the ball toss up with the conditions. He did not want to put it there.
Big opportunity for Gasquet. Nadal saves one.
15-40. Game.
And there
Gasquet.
it is. Gasquet breaks, leads 5-4, serves for the first set.
Gasquet leads 5 games.
So we talked about grip changes and Richard Gasquet's grip in particular, and this is the perfect opportunity to see how thick that is. That is like, what, twice as thick as the actual grip of the racket itself. So
big opportunity here for Gasquet.
And he'll change that probably 2 or 3 times throughout the match.
This is an exhibition event, so when we look at his ATP history head-to-head, Nadal 15 love over Gasquet. Oh, and you go through their history together. You've got to go back to 2008, ATP Masters Series in Canada, since he's been able to win a set off Rafa.
Wow.
That was a tie break. China in 2007, he got a set. So this exhibition won't count in those stats, but it just shows how rare this is an opportunity for Richard Gasquet.
And you know that Rafa doesn't give anything up. Like we know in warm-up practices, he gives his opponent nothing. The thing so far for me, though, in this set is that Gasquet hasn't really done anything special. He's just kept his ball in play. And Rafa, which we have very rarely seen, has actually given it up with unforced errors. That was one of the worst service games I've seen him play, that previous game. But just to reiterate, it's because of how much movement there is through the breeze here.
And right on cue, Nadal.
30-40.
So he's listening to you, Todd, in the commentary bunker, refusing to give away this first set.
I like that return from Rafa up and inside the baseline on the second serve. Often we see him in a more defensive mode on return. When he's he takes on returns like that, he's a formidable opponent. Look how far back he is here.
Deuce.
I think if I stood that far back trying to return, my return wouldn't get to the net, even if I hit it solidly.
We saw that.
The old chip trajectory, which wouldn't make it. Look at that. Ooh. Just completely off with the timing on the forehand.
And a set point for Gasquet as a result.
Gasquet.
He looks bemused, Rafa, at the moment.
Game.
And there
First
it
set.
is. Gasquet takes the first set. 6-4 with an ace.
6 games to 4.
Back to the drawing board for Rafa. 40 minutes entertaining tennis in really testing conditions. Dave Colbert's about to make his way next to Richard Gasquet.
Don't want to sit on your banana there, Richard. Any day you win the first set against Rafa has to be a good day.
Yeah, of course. It's nice for me. You know, I served well. You know, it was a good set, especially with the wind. It's not easy to play, but you know, I hope to play another good set in the second set.
You missed this tournament last year at the last minute through injury, illness. It's good to be back.
Yeah, of course. It's very nice venue here. I played when I was 16 or 17 years old, so in 2003 or 4. So I'm always happy to play here. Many great fans here, so it's a history to play in Kooyong. So it's always fun.
What do you have to do in the second set?
To play my game, to try to play better. Rafa did some mistakes, of course. It's not at his best, but you know, I know him. I think he played better in the second set.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Nadal serving. Down love 30. First set after dropping, second set, apologies, after dropping the first set 4-6 to Richard Gasquet, and sitting alongside Todd Woodbridge. Todd spoke about the conditions here.
Yeah, we spoke about it at the opening of the match.
How breezy it is, and he's really struggling with it.
He is, and I'm surprised because those first few games, I thought Rafa was hitting the ball really well. But what's happened here, as I mentioned, when you have big, long swings in the wind and you start to lose your timing, you don't find the centre of the racket. Now, I said there would be miss hits, and we've actually started to see quite a few from both guys. So there's an adjustment that needs to be made. So hard for me to be able to go and tell the number one player in the world what they got to do. But on the forehand, he swings really big. It's really long. And when he's missing as many as he is right now, he's got to shorten it. It's got to be more compact, and he's got to get up on the ball a little quicker with the shorter swing. At the moment, he's got the big, long swing. The wind's affecting it, and as he gets into the ball strike, the ball's dipping. And thus, he's not hitting it as we're used to seeing. So he would know it. It's whether he can make that adjustment.
And he's being tested by a Frenchman who's been as high as 7 in the world. Gasquet breaks, leads 1-love, second set.
Well, these are some of the highlights, and always good for some magic moments is Richard Gasquet, usually off the backhand wing. And that's the one. It's just an elegant shot, one of the prettiest shots in men's tennis. And the surprise here was at 4-all, the service game that Nadal played, and Gasquet up to the task to take advantage.
You look through his career, he finished 2007 as the number 8 player in the world. You look at the highs and lows of any professional sport, he's a perfect example of it, isn't he? Another 5 years later before he got into the top 10, finished the year in 2012 at number 10, 2013 number 9, 2015 number 9. Here he is after a interrupted 2017 with appendix surgery and back injury. He's 31 in the world.
Well, he'll just sneak into a seed for the Australian Open, Gasquet.
Talking about seeds, I'm looking forward to the Australian Open draw, which will be a terrific TV event that you're part of, Todd, right here on the Summer of 7 Tennis. You and Haim the Australian Open draw. Saw the opportunity, but missed. Gasquet continues on top, 30-15. Thursday night, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time is the Australian Open draw, live on 7mate and your 7 tennis app. Hamish McLaughlin, Todd Woodbridge, Roger Federer, Maria Sharapova. It'll be a beauty.
I'm looking forward to that. It's never been done before in this way. Having players at the draw to talk about what's going to happen throughout the fortnight. So I imagine they'll be a little nervous about predicting too much, but it's another first for the Australian Open and Grand Slam tennis.
And unparalleled access to the sporting stars is what we love here on 7. Maybe only an exhibition, but Gasquet will certainly take a win over Nadal, and he's well in control. 2-love lead, second set.
Well, this is going to be good too. Smash MND. Jimmy Barnes live on stage at the Australian Open live stage, Sunday the 14th of January. We've lost some big names of our tennis community to motor neurone disease, and this is to raise funds to help find that cure. Angie Cunningham, Brad Druitt, Peter Doohan, all big part of our community, and looking forward to rocking it with Jimmy Barnes on Sunday. Tickets are still available. It's at the Birrarung Ma live stage. Come and join us.
And the radar on that forehand of Rafa continues to be off the high level we're used to.
Yeah.
And
yeah, worrying signs. You see the coach and the team there in that top right sort of itching in their seats, a little uncomfortable.
I mean, his steely resolve is famous, but he wants to make his way into the Aussie Open after a long time out in good touch.
15 on.
It's not that long. There's only about 8 weeks since he played, but it's the
playaholic.
Yeah, it's the match practice.
Yeah.
It's that intensity, isn't it? And very rare that a player can walk into a Grand Slam without having some sort of good feel warm-up tournaments in front of them that they can go on to victory. You think about Rafa and the 10 French Opens he's won. Well, he's won about 50 other clay court tournaments in the lead up to those. Sounds like an exaggeration. I have to go and look at the stats, but it is about 50.
Yeah. Did pose the question, Rod Laver's racket, Nadal versus Federer, who would win?
Yep.
30 all. I suppose the first question would be, what surface?
Well, let's just put it on a neutral surface.
Okay.
Let's say
30 on.
maybe a medium hard court, or I think you could even put it on clay. I think you would have to go with Federer.
Why?
Because of the difference in shot making and swing paths that we've talked about. With the old wooden rackets, you've got to go through the ball flatter, and you have to be more compact, and you have to be a very efficient volleyer. And Roger has those abilities.
It's another bar chat, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be fascinating because, you know, talk about adapting the swing here today and shortening it. That's what Rafa would have to do with a wooden racket. Have to have a very different shot. He whips up through the back of the ball to get enormous spin. You can't do that with a wooden racket because the ball doesn't go anywhere. You have to get through and hit the ball flatter. So it's contrast. This is a big moment now.
And he does it. Gasquet breaks. Ooh la la. 3-love, Gasquet. Better to the conditions, and as a result has a 3-love lead in the second set, up a set. And it's time for Rafa Nadal to get some, to really dig deep here.
Well, it is. There's the coaching team of Gasquet, Fabrice Santoro on the left, Thierry Toulon on the right, if you can remember him as a player. That's a better forehand. That one up on the ball, flattening it out a little bit. He's been very spinny since he's got tight on the forehand side, Nadal. So I mentioned just trying to shorten the swing, and I think that has to flatten it as well just to get through the wind here. I think when you play Gasquet, though, he doesn't go away in terms of all of a sudden lose his ball striking or give you a lot of free points. So Rafa is going to have to find form quickly.
15 on.
At 31 years of age, Gasquet, 31 in the world now, has had 2017 with the appendicitis and also a back injury. Is his best tennis behind him, or can he still be a top 10 player in the world?
I still think there's room for him in the top 10, definitely. Look, you take out Raonic, Nishikori, Cilic, those types of players. He's still at that quality.
Great play by Nadal. Found his range there with the forehand.
15-30.
He's rallying.
This is what you love about Nadal. I mean, this is not make and break for him, this event at Kooyong, but hates to lose. So he's a set and 2 breaks down. He could easily sort of wander off and go back to Melbourne Park and practice, but not him.
30-40.
This is the practice that he needs, this type of intensity within a match.
So there's a break point here in the Kooyong Classic. And he breaks. Nadal still trails down a break. Trails 1-3, second set.
A score update at the Sydney International. Things kicking off for the women here in Williams.
love 15.
So for Nadal, Kooyong Classic, round robin, he gets the opportunity to play a couple of matches, and it's the ideal preparation. Whether does he need to play all the matches? I mean, they can decide as they go on through the tournament.
It looks like it. It looks like he needs more. I think preparation-wise, he'd want more.
David Goffin's involved in this
15 all.
tournament, and Dominic Thiem, a young gun, so many of the world's elite are involved in the Kooyong Classic of 2018, building up towards the Australian Open. We've seen the evolution of this tournament some 10 years ago when Agassi was playing, and desperate, and Sampras desperate to get many matches, and it was the week leading into the Australian Open, whereas a change, and Brisbane has been elevated. The Hopman Cup's become such a great success, and whether the elite players want a week between a tournament and an actual slam.
Yeah, I think 2 to 3 matches the week before a Grand Slam is probably all you want. So if you play a full tournament, you win the tournament, it's 5. It's almost you're almost overdone. You're starting to lose a bit of your conditioning. So that 2 or 3 though, you get match practice, you get time to recoup, refresh, and then you can go into the slam. I think perfect.
Listen to the crowd really supporting Nadal. They don't want this to end.
40-30.
So almost like Nadal's forehand today, when he's actually been forced to have to hit the ball quickly when the ball's got down low, because he just drops the racket and lets it rip. When the ball's been higher in the air, flighted balls from Gasquet, that's when he's got the big long swing. It's been really ineffective for him.
He holds. The fight back continues. Nadal still trails 2-3, second set. Thanks for joining us for the Kooyong Classic. Gasquet serving up a break.
Well, good foot speed. He covers a lot of court within a rally, doesn't he? Look how deep he is there. But he immediately took off because he knew this was going to be a drop shot. And Gasquet, he finds himself backpedaling here. His body weight going backwards, so he had no chance to pick up either way that Rafa may have gone.
$15.
It was the wave for the net court. Is that the most insincere gesture in world sport?
I think so.
If you can think of another more insincere gesture in world sport, send us through social media platforms at 7 Tennis.
Yeah,
because you're sort of saying, I'm sorry that went in, but I'm awfully glad that it did.
That's the polite version.
Pressure builds for Gasquet here.
Yeah, pressure mentally, because here he hasn't had this win over Rafa for an eternity. And he's a set 3-love double break. You think, well, here we go. Even here today, Kooyong, he's struggling to finish this match off. You know, I guess on serve, he doesn't get a lot of free points on serve. Good solid serve. He was early on it.
He constructed the point perfectly, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a beautiful point from both players.
40-30.
All court, all angles. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, come on, just get it done, get it done. Your mind starts racing. Can I? So many questions. Oh, you won't see better in defence, but then also
advantage.
That backhand there was brilliant. There's the defence. Makes your opponent play one more, but have a look at that backhand.
Court coverage of Rafa's. It's just awesome.
Yep.
Pressure builds.
Yeah, the quality gone up a notch now.
Deuce. Advantage, Gasquet.
This was hard to slide this one down the line because the breeze would have pushed it wide. So he's gone for the safety of at least making it cross court, but no answers. Gasquet in good position.
Overcooks the forehand. Back on deuce again.
Deuce.
You can see in that point there, Gasquet trying to finish it off a little quicker, stepping up in the court, seeing if he could force the play. But Rafa, his defensive skills are so good. The 225 coming into the station.
Didn't realise how busy the Glen Waverley line was until today.
Yes, see, we didn't see enough of that in the first set from Rafa, where he got up onto the shorter ball.
Advantage, Nadal.
Rafa's certainly asking questions of Gasquet's temperament now. The crowd's willing him on to break back here. They want this exhibition to go on and on. 3-all. Second set. Here's your racket.
So here we've got a mix of the Torna grip and the leather, and I believe we're going to see what I was talking about. The wooden racket handles are going to pop up here.
Have a look at that.
Yeah, so that's the Kooyong Museum there of the evolution of the tennis racket, and absolutely brilliant it is. The old, what do we call that, where you vice, where you put your racket in so that the racket didn't warp. Tennis balls that came in a box before they were pressurized. It is really fantastic, and some of the legends of the game have donated their equipment to sit in there.
Have you donated some of yours in there, or you've got to donate a trophy, haven't you?
I don't know if I've got any rackets. I think I used to break them all. They never made it. New balls.
It's a barroom chat that we've just been having before in regards to the rackets, and Todd Woodbridge putting it out there that with Rod Laver's racket, Nadal versus Federer on a neutral surface, he's saying Federer. Do you agree? At 7 Tennis on the social media platforms, give us your opinion.
Oh, I thought he'd made it.
15-all.
Thinking about rackets, but also the tennis balls. One of the things that I always wanted to do as a young kid was get to Wimbledon and play with white balls, because they were still playing with the white ball. I think they went out in 1985 was the last year of the white ball at the championships. I rocked up for the first time in 87, and so I still never got to do that. We changed to the fluoro yellow so you could see the ball on TV.
Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Many of our audience would remember the old white ball days at Wimbledon. Hearing Toddy talking about it, though, surprised me, considering how fresh he looks. He is literally the Benjamin Button of world tennis. Now, Rafa's staring down at 2 break points here. He's done all the hard work to claw his way back into this second set. There's one he saves.
30-40.
So, I know it's it's exhibition style is the Kooyong Classic, but you can sense from both players the desire to win here.
Yeah,
it's certainly picked up the intensity.
Deuce.
Great example of the use of the wind there.
Yeah, look, that ball was out all the way until that last moment where it's just been pushed onto the line by the breeze. Gasquet guessing early too that he was going to slide the wide ball. That ball toss has been inconsistent today for Rafa. It's just a little short, low, hasn't had the chance to get to full extension. Just starting to get up into the court a bit better now.
Advantage, Nadal.
Oh, that's a great angle to see how much spin, the velocity that he puts on the ball.
Fuse.
Michelle, when we talk about the single-handed backhand being so good, that's why it is, because the single-hander up the line, when you come over the ball's the hardest shot for the single-hander, and he has this ability to hit either way at will, and that was a perfect example of it there.
Advantage. Nadal.
With the evolution and the prominence of the double hand backhand on the tour, both on the ATP and also WTA, there must have been pressure on some of these single hand backhand players to conform. And Rafa holds 4-3. He now takes the lead, second set.
Nadal.
We were 12 years of age, and my first trip to the United States in a national team. We ended up playing for
sports. You're right. You know, a change in sport and become serious
15,
at 14, 15. We're not necessarily saying for kids out there that are listening to us here watching the great Rafa Nadal that you have to be single-minded at a very young age, but practicing the skills has got to be the key.
30 on.
Well, he needs this game, doesn't he? From 3-love up. The sequence of run of games going in favour of Rafa, the momentum hugely on the Spaniard side.
Game. Gasquet.
Gasquet holds 4-all, second set.
4 games on.
Back to Melbourne Park, where we're going to see the defending champion. There he is, Roger Federer, having a involved. Will he face this man again? We'll see.
We can only dream, Mel. That was a final for the ages. Todd had the best seat in the house leading our commentary team. I was only watching the highlights of it. We showed it during a rain delay over recent times. Oh, just have to see it to believe it. I don't think I've ever seen him miss a serve.
Love 15.
That.
No, and so I mentioned this. It's the ball toss that's the issue for Rafa. He's got an abbreviated swing, and with the wind, if the ball is knocked down quickly by that breeze, he runs out of time to finish his backswing and catch up. I guess he's feeling, if I throw the ball too high today, the wind it moves too much, so he's keeping it lower, trying to make his swing quicker, but that's taking him out of his rhythm. Well, big difference between the first and second ball toss then. That last one was much higher. We're just seeing the rust at the moment, though, in terms of we saw 3 or 4 games of high intensity, really good play, and then you could see a little bit of a drop now in concentration. And that's unusual.
Un-Rafa-like.
Very much so.
Let's first serve.
Yeah, just keep your eye on this at home. Just see whether you can visually see the differences between the height of his ball toss. Goodness me.
Love 40.
Gasquet's eyes would be lit up now with this opportunity. The opportunity for Gasquet to defeat Nadal at any tournament is unbelievably huge. Never defeated him in ATP history. They've been playing against each other since they were
15,
teenagers. 15 and love record to Nadal, dating way back to 2004.
That was a deceleration.
30-40.
Rafa's almost tried to give it back to him, and he's going, I want it, but I don't know if I can take it.
Gotta love elite sport between the ears, don't you?
Oh, well, it's where it's won and lost. Look at that point.
Was that a combination of spin or and win?
No, that was more win. Both players there just could not get a full grip of the ball during the rally. They were doing their best just to keep it in.
Oh.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be landing in an aircraft out there at the moment. It'd be a little bumpy.
That's first serve.
Welcome to all our friends who are sitting watching in airport lounges about to fly into Melbourne. They're a little queasy now, Todd.
So good shot there of Nadal's shoe.
Nadal.
You can see worn out the side there around the big toe where he slid on the hard court. I wonder how many pairs of shoes he goes through.
As long as he doesn't wear out that $750,000 watch.
No.
That floated and floated and floated.
Yeah, he didn't. He needed to really sort of grip and rip this one. You can see here just a little choppy, and as he's dug underneath that, it's got too much flight on it. Just need to be a bit more through the ball.
Wind's playing havoc with both players, but Rafa on serve, you really feel for the server.
He's got away with that. Wow.
There, summed it up.
Well, we saw Nick Kyrgios get a ball in the mouth at fast four up in Sydney, last night. This could have been the same for Rafa after that volley.
Anyone who's played tennis knows that feeling. The drop and watch them charge in and you're just standing there, nowhere to go.
So he gave up no ground, though, held it well. Anticipation here on the volley and good hands.
Oh, he holds with a struggle. Nadal 5-4, second set.
Nadal leads.
The 7 Tennis app, and we'll head over there a little bit later on.
We're back here on the famous centre court at Kooyong for the Kooyong Classic. #1 player in the world, Rafa Nadal, lost the first set to former world #7, current world 31 in Richard Gasquet from France. Nadal, it's been a second set of trials and tribulations.
30 love.
But we're on serve at the moment.
Well, I think if Gasquet were to actually win this match from here, that would be a mighty effort, because he's had 3 love, 2 breaks, love 40 in that last game. You start thinking, oh, well, here we go again. So it's a big task for him
40
now.
love.
I think many in the crowd are barracking for Nadal to level this.
I'm sure they are.
I think Dave Colbert would be too. I reckon he might have a fan moment. I think he'd be keen to go and sit next to Rafa and have a quick chat.
40-15.
Get someone to take a snap and put it on social media. It'd be one of the few people in the world that there'd be some fan moments from a commentator, but I reckon Rafa's right there.
Game. Gasquet.
Gasquet holds 5-all second set.
Got a better angle of your favourite sport?
5-all second set. Nadal to serve. This is the end that's more preferable to serve, Todd?
For Rafa, yes, with his lefty sliding serve, this is the one he should be more comfortable at. It's easier for him to get the ball toss right. The problem for him now is he's actually throwing the ball toss, and he's got the sun as a slight issue as well, as he throws it out there towards sort of his left.
Love.
I'd like to see him use the swinging serve into the body forehand of Gasquet here. Really jam him up, get the shorter ball that he can then step into and rip into the cross court. Really slide it hard and kind of handcuff the Frenchman. Well, that was a serve, but he didn't get it on the hip, did he? He only got it in the hitting zone.
Big error there, and an opportunity for Gasquet.
He's gone for depth on that shot then. His favourite one there is to really hit it hard and short and jump it out wide. He's had a bit of trouble finding that one. Oh, that's a great backhand. Such a difficult shot, made to look so easy.
15-40.
Remember, Richard, we talked about Gasquet's ability to turn very quickly from a defensive position in the court to offense, and that was a prime example.
Two big opportunities to break here and then serve for the match. Great view there of the flags. It's wind swirling around inside Kooyong. Oh, and there it is.
Gasquet.
Gasquet breaks. Will serve for the match. Kooyong classic. Getting towards a fascinating conclusion here. Richard Gasquet, who has a love 15 record versus Nadal at ATP level.
Love 15.
This won't count in that record, but still a huge opportunity here to defeat the #1 player in the world.
And these are the fun games to watch when you're watching a player who's not had a chance to have a win against someone like Rafa for since they were 13, and how they handle it. That first point was a little nervy. That's first serve halfway up the net. And you'd look and love a gift like that.
15 on.
That forehand has been erratic.
And the tactics from Rafa should be just make Gasquet play.
15-30.
Well, it was a good defensive lob. Too hard to take that one out of the air, but what a good bounce smash that was.
Brilliant volley.
Well, it was a good pass. He had to play the shoelace volley. Rafa just too far back to be able to run it down.
Oh,
40-30.
he did great recovering.
It certainly was, but
here's the moment that Richard Gasquet.
Gasquet was looking at the ball. Get out, please get out.
Desperate for a win over Nadal. And there it is.
Game, set, match. Gasquet.
Gasquet wins.
2 sets to 1.
6-4, 7-5.
Well, terrific win by the Frenchman. Been a long time coming for him. Wonderful to see Rafa out on court. A little bit rusty. He's got work to do ahead of the Australian Open. But we saw a quality match in difficult conditions.
6-4, 7-5, and an hour of tennis in that second set was terrific. The crowd was really keen for it to continue. Richard Gasquet, well, there's a great souvenir. The pink balls get hit into the crowd in the iconic Kooyong Stadium, which has seen some wonderful drama over the years.
Well, just back to
Rafa,
Nadal
fantastic
quickly.
to have you here in Kooyong. It's good to see you up and about. Important match for you. How did it feel for you to be out playing in a match?
Yeah, good. Very happy to be in Australia again. First of all, yeah, have been a long year last year, so I had to start the preparation a little bit later than usual. But here I am. Now I arrived with plenty of time. That's a good day to start feeling again. The feelings of playing a match, even if it's not official, but it's still a good test for me and a good practice. So just that's the most important thing. No, all the best to Richard for the whole season, and Happy New Year, everybody.
We have to ask, how's the knee?
Yeah, I'm good. No, I am here. If I am not feeling good, probably I will not be here. So that's a good news. And my idea is just to keep practicing hard the next couple of days to be ready for the beginning of the Australian Open.
Well, it's great to see you here. We wish you all the very best and can't wait to see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Rafael Nadal.